Happy 11:11. I have some space this morning, so I just wanted to sit down and bring some messages forward for you. I'm seeing in the collective sort of the extreme swings where some are really feeling like those magical opening energies of the portal essence. And then I'm seeing other people going through like really big triggers and shifts at this time. It feels like it all makes sense to me with the Mercury retrograde and the portal energies. It feels that the fact that the collectives are holding and working with the extremes feels very important. So please trust whatever part of this process you are in, because a lot of times, like one part of the collective will work on one thing while the other part is working on something else. And this is another way that we can rebalance and harmonize and work together. So, for those of you that are going through an intense time processing triggers and heavy energies, thank you so much for your service and your process, and sending you so much love. And for the other side of the collective that's really playing and dancing and opening up to the new energies, thank you and sending you so much love. Again, both parts are important, right? Because it's each part is acknowledging whatever's needing to get worked through. And I believe anyone who's working through some heavy things right now, of course, eventually you'll get to that space where you're processing the magical energies. And those of you processing the magical energies may find you have another round of discomfort to process later on down the road. What's important right now, it does feel very important that we are creating this space to bring in the blessings and the magic and holding space for that. So, any of you even processing an intense time, if you have the space and it feels aligned, maybe carve out some time to do that. And if it's just not the time, keep this on your radar for a time in the next few days or weeks when that essence opens for you, because the portal energies keep working, right? But a lot of times, in order to receive the new energies, the downloads, the magic, what's wanting to come in, we have some cleaning out to do. It's not about it being always on that exact date, right? So just keep going, trust the process. The energies are being grounded and anchored and will be available. You're just working with creating that space to receive deeper blessings for yourself. Again, yep, that sacred circle, golden river of blessings is tonight, the day that I'm posting this at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will put that in the pinned comments. And if you're finding this later on, the recordings will be available. So I'll make sure all of that information is there in the comments. All right. Now I feel like I just kind of want to touch in briefly yesterday's messages where the masculines came forward and really were acknowledging that they're going through some shifts and that there is a big timeline shift potential happening for them and with them. And then I was guided to do a member video for my YouTube and Patreon members. And that's where the divine feminine magical energies really opened up. What's been consistently coming forward over these last few weeks is the divine feminine collective is being guided to take down previous walls. I'm not going to tell you what walls to take down or if it has to do with anyone or anything specific. What it feels like to me is walls that were in place for a reason but are no longer necessary. You're going to know what you've built your standards around, and those will act as your natural, healthy barrier, right? So, any walls that you're being guided to take down now are actually going to be walls that you're dissolving so that you can receive your golden river of blessings. creating more space to actually receive the results of what you've been working for and what you've been asking for. Okay. So I'm gonna go into, I feel guided to go into the shaman dream, and I opened right up to the beloved card. Love it. Okay, we'll leave that out. And then we're just gonna pull on that. This beloved, this 1111 time is such a deep potential for anchoring more clearly into the internal union and sacred union energies. So this space, as I'm saying this, it's like I'm feeling this fire, this flame in the heart space. I feel it in the individual physical bodies of the collective, and of course, for the masculine and feminine collective. And now that I say that, I'm guided to specifically pull one for the feminine and one for the masculine, and then we'll let it open up from there. So, what do we have for the divine feminines with this beloved 1111 energy and those union codes? Okay. Dances on one foot balancing act. This to me feels that it wants to acknowledge the energy that there was a time and a space where the feminine and masculine felt like they did not know where to land. Where did I belong? Where do we belong? Right? I think this is part of the process of the self-discovery, that self-actualization process. And it was like this dancing on one foot was working to embody yourself, or maybe you're even feeling deeper states of this now. So looking at it as maybe you're not sure where to land, or maybe you've landed in certain places and now you're looking for your next steps forward. And what this feels like is wow. The balancing act dances on one foot, and the way that energy is coming through today actually feels about the divine feminine's deeper embodiment into her physical body and onto the earth for herself. This is interesting because I feel like a few weeks ago I did a session and this like green moss energy came in to support the heart space. I cannot fully remember that. I apologize. If any of you guys remember it, can you put it in the comments? Okay. I feel more wants to come with this, but I feel guided to pull the masculine card and then cards in between. I feel like it's those step forwards for yourself, and the way that she's moving, it feels like if you felt like the masculine didn't have space in his life for you, you've been being guided to find that space for yourself, and that was the important mirror point, right? Maybe you didn't have space for one another because you didn't fully have space for yourselves yet, right? So this to me is speaking about how you've been embodying and focusing on yourself, and now you're knowing how to balance and embody your energy better, or you're in that process of doing so. And this is bringing forth confirmation that keep going because it's working. That embodiment is happening. And now your balance in your capacity to hold yourself and let yourself land on the earth is that important part of like, as you can hold and embody yourself, now you can hold and maintain sacred union, right? So the more you're landing and balancing for yourself, that's reflective of being able to hold the connection. And I think something is really important that I want to touch on right here, right now. We are meant to learn how to hold ourselves. No other person, even our twin flame divine counterpart that's in a physical human body, is meant to be able to hold you 24/7, 365. And what I mean by that is, yes, they can love you and be present, but they're human. So they're going to have their own needs and focuses, and they're going to have times that they have things that they have to work on. It doesn't diminish the connection or the love or their presence in your life. But to expect any other human being to be there to hold you all of the time is just in the way that we used to think that that was healthy, it's actually just going to set you up for disappointment. Your job is to learn how to hold yourself through the discomforts, through the hard times. And this doesn't mean it's because you don't deserve support. Of course you do. But it's really important that you have a broad toolbox to support yourself. And then when you have your counterpart or other people come in to support you, it's a nice relief. It's a nice addition. It's nice to know that that's there and present for you, and absolutely you deserve it. But it feels really important to make sure that you're clearing any expectation that that is always going to be there in that way. Okay. And I feel like that's more connected with the previous energies in the human abandonment wound. Just because someone isn't able to be available at your beck and call 24/7, 365, does not mean they abandoned you. It does not mean that they don't care about you and that they don't love you. It means that they're a human being too, right? And that grace in that space is important. And I'm sure if you stop and look at it in reverse, you have also experienced times where you've given selflessly and you've shown up for people. And then you've reached these moments in time where you're just not supposed to anymore, or you get called in other directions and you have to put your energy and focus into other things, maybe even your own health or your own well-being. And you know, that doesn't mean you don't care about those people or that you don't want to show up for them. It means two things. One, you have to prioritize your own well-being so that you can show up for others when it's aligned. And usually, when you're not able to show up for someone in a moment in time, it is because their higher self is actually calling them to strengthen their own muscles of self reliance and self validation. Okay. Do we all deserve interdependent love and deep, loving connections? Absolutely. But it does feel important that as we are balancing and embodying more and more, we're open to receiving support, but we're showing up for ourselves in a way that we're not expecting it to always look or be or sound a certain way. Self sourcing, self soothing is very important. In fact, the more you do that for yourself, you will find the more people, places, and situations show up in your life to soothe and support you in new and deeper ways, right? It's like how we treat ourselves is how the world reciprocates around us, okay? So I feel like this is something that's important because, especially in the masculine and feminine dynamics, we can go into some of these old ways of thinking that the other is supposed to show up in a certain way all of the time. And yes, of course, we want to know that it's genuine and respectful and all of those things. But it feels really important to remember that even as we evolve, even as we ascend, even as we're growing and embodying significantly, we're still human and we're still going through these transformational growth processes. And so having grace for yourself and others is important. And again, I'll bring it back to compassion and accountability, right? So we have to hold ourselves accountable, others having compassion for ourselves and having compassion for others, and finding that dance, that balancing act that works for you, right? Because We can have compassion and equally accountability, right? We can be open to receiving support and equally self-soothe and show up for ourselves. And the key piece is being able to really do both, right? Show up for yourself and open up to receive support. Keep following your guidance, keep tempering and balancing whatever extremes are in front of you. And now that's bringing me back to the beginning message, where this is a big part of why we go through the extremes, whether it's internally or if we're working on the collective scale and holding opposite ends of the spectrum so that we can all really ultimately be able to enjoy more of that middle ground where more viable solutions live. Okay. But not because we're avoiding the extremes, but because we're learning how to work and embody within it and accepting that when we feel two extremes, it's not because something's wrong with us, it's because we're being called to learn how to work with those energies. Okay, now we're going to go into the masculine. Okay, so the masculines are coming through again with this new beginning energy. And the way that energy is coming out immediately is where there's a want for the new beginning, but this woman beneath this full moon energy, what it feels like to me, it's really reminding me of the moon energy card in wow, this other deck. I want to pull it out really quick because I want to use the visual and the light seers deck. It's two different decks, but the energy is really coming forward. Look at this. So it's like this is where maybe like we're talking about the masculine energy. So the masculine felt deep in the depths, sort of buried in the abyss of emotion. And this illumination from the moon felt sort of far away. And yet there was a reach and a want to float back up. But now what this looks like in this moon maiden card is look, it's like they got themselves upright and they're pushing up through the top of the water towards the moon, connecting with the wisdom. And the moon is often synonymous with the feminine energy. And this to me is feeling like where the masculine is not is working with not denying his internal emotions, where he's looking at other emotions besides just anger and frustration. And it feels like there's this want to push forward into the new beginning. But my sense with this energy is that there still is a little bit of struggle that's occurring. But I also feel like this struggle is exceedingly important to walk through, right? Because through the struggle is where you gain the strength to find your balance, right? When the butterfly emerges out of the cocoon, the strength of getting itself out of the cocoon, it's where it builds the strength to prepare to fly. But there's also a point once it comes out of the cocoon that it has to wait until its wings fully unfurl and dry so it's safe to fly. It feels to me that this is the state that the masculines are in, sort of pushing up out of the cocoon. And wow, it's really interesting because she's like a moth or a butterfly over here. So it's for those of you watching this for your internal union energies, it's you may feel right in all of those stages of coming out of the cocoon and strengthening into your balance. Okay. The masculines really deeply are coming through with that point of building strength, with accepting more and more of who they actually are. This feels like the energy of being in a position where they can really no longer deny their feelings, their emotions. This is feeling quite significant at this time. But I also feel like there's like a thawing process because if it was all to come forward all at once, it would be quite overwhelming. But there's definitely been a thawing of the emotions, which is leading to preparation of the new beginning, but still in that sort of protein soup transformational process. My sense is that different masculines are in different stages of that process of from the protein soup to emerging and preparing to fly. And I'm getting kind of like over the next few weeks and months, this will continue to thaw and unfold in a way that is sustainable so that the emotion is able to be digested and processed versus coming on so strong that you feel buried and you just stuff it to survive, which was quite often what occurred during those separation phases. Okay. All right. I did want to pull some in between. All right, let's pull one for the masculine and feminine together. I'm going to go into the mystical shaman. We'll go a little bit deeper. What do we have with this meeting in the middle? Oh, wow. Sweat Lodge. So I said this meeting in the middle, and it's like, to me, the Sweat Lodge and energy is like where spirit meets the earth, where the higher realms embody into the earth. And as you're entering into the Sweat Lodge, it's like, it's so funny, right? We have the fire and then we have the water, and it creates that steam. Um, Sorry, there's a lot of energies coming in with this right now. That's why I'm paused. It actually feels like where the flames are balancing, where the emotions are balancing, the intensity of the initiation, the fire, the flame, the transformational energies of the initiation, and the deep processing of the emotions and the deep intuitive, telepathic, energetic connection. And the sweat lodge is representing to me where it all comes together. The fire in the water in the perfect energy of the steam, where the fire is not suppressed and the water is not evaporated, but they're working in a very beautiful synergistic energy. And so this feels like the deeper internal tempering of your inner fires and your inner emotions as masculines and feminines internally in your own energy, but then collectively, it does feel like we are moving more and more towards that harmonious balance. Of course, if we look on the world stage, there's more to unfold. But like I suggested recently, is look at it from a broader perspective instead of having deep expectations for each individual masculine and sort of give each of them their space and grace to go through their own processes. What I feel is that you may be experiencing more masculines coming forward with emotionally open conversations. But what I'm feeling is that they don't feel imbalanced or unstable. They actually feel much more balanced and stable. And with the energy that I feel as I speak this, they might feel slightly shaky, but it's not like a unstable shaky. It's more of a breaking new ground shaky, right? Like so when the seed the seed has been germinating in the earth and it's building up the strength to push through the surface, like that type of shaky. Like a big burst of energy is ready to come forward. So again, it does feel like, despite the fact that I'm living in a winter storm as we speak, the ice of the emotions is thawing in a manner that is allowing things to be processed and stabilized in a balanced manner. Again, the fire is still burning at a perfect rate. The water is still flowing at a perfect rate. And the fire and the ice are finding a nice, harmonious, comfortable balance. Okay. And this makes a lot of sense for this 1111 energy as we're talking about deeper states of harmonization. And working with these energies, of course, internally is always beneficial. And then, however, you feel guided to apply those to your external connections. All right, I'm going to leave it here. I hope that you're enjoying your 1111 and this portal process. And I'm sending you so much love and wishing you a beautiful rest of your day and night. Take care. Much love. Peace.